How can you have the tough conversations that you need to have as a team leader, as a leader of team leaders? Having tough conversations is part of the work, part of the tasks of someone who leads people, of someone who leads team leaders. This is something that you cannot avoid. This is something that you have to learn to become comfortable with, and that is a part of your day-to-day life. So how can you make this thing something that's less uncomfortable both for you and for the person who you're going to have the tough conversations with? Number one, self-awareness. The most important book that you can read about personal development, about self-awareness, is yourself. You really need to understand yourself, to understand what is going on with you. So when it comes to tough situations, one of the first things you need to understand is what is going on with me. Under self-awareness, one of the questions that you can ask yourself is, how do I talk to myself? Your inner voice. How do you talk to yourself when you've done something wrong, when you're having the tough conversations with yourself? Are you kind or are you mean? Now, if this is something that is an issue for you, this is something that you might want to resolve before you start having tough conversations with people, because that will somehow come out in the conversations you're having with people. Another question you can ask yourself is there any anger or rage, anything that is unresolved, either between you and this person or just generally? Are you a person who has anger or has rage? That's another thing that you might want to resolve, because that will come through in the conversation that you're having with this person. Another thing you can ask is if there is any unforgiveness, anything that is unresolved, especially between you and this person, or between you and people who you associate with this person. Because again, that will come out in the conversation that you're having with this person. So if there is any anger or rage, if there is anything that is unresolved, resolve that before you have the tough conversation. The last thing that you could ask yourself is whether having tough conversations in general triggers you in a certain way. Whether whenever you think about tough conversations, you're taken back to P2, or you're taken back to something that happened to you in secondary, or you're taken back to something that happened to you in your family. Whether tough conversations as an activity or as an action is a trigger for you. If that is the case, then this is something that you might want to resolve, that you might want to either work with a coach or work with a counselor or work with someone who knows how to deal with these kind of situations to help you resolve that, so that tough conversations stop being something that just holds you back. Whenever you think of them, you're just reacting like something like you reacted when something happened to you in the past. So this is what you could do. There are more questions you could ask yourself, and you know yourself better, so you know the questions that you need to ask yourself. But the first step would be self-awareness, understanding what is going on within you that is causing you to maybe feel uncomfortable with having the tough conversation. Now, the second thing that you could do to make having tough conversations easier with your team is to make conversations normal. This is something that I am actually encouraging the people who I'm working with at the moment to make having conversations with your team members, with the people who you're leading. Make it normal. Besides assignments, besides receiving reports or giving guidance or actually having these tough conversations, have conversations with your team. Just talk about stuff. Have check-ins with them. What is going on with them? What's going on with the family? Make conversations a normal part of work. This makes it easier then to have the tough conversation, because the tough conversation becomes one of the many conversations that you're having with your team, or that you're having with your team members, or that you're having with a particular team of people or a particular group of people. So the second thing is to make conversations a normal part of work. The third thing you can do is ask yourself, do you need to have this tough conversation with this particular person? Is it worth it? Because at times there is an issue that has come up, or there is something that you've observed and you feel like I really need to sit down and have this conversation with this person, but when you check, you realize perhaps it is not worth it. Perhaps I just need to let this slide, or this will be sorted out in time. I faced that situation as I was leading in one of the teams that I was leading, where a person had an attitude issue, which I noticed because I really understand how people respond, but I noticed it. And I thought to myself, do I need to have a conversation with this person about their attitude? And after some reflection, I realized it wasn't going to be necessary. What I needed to focus on was the fact that they were doing the work that they were meant to do, and the fact that they were delivering in time. I let the attitude sort itself out. It wasn't a conversation that I needed to have. So that's a question that you could ask yourself. Do I need to have this tough conversation with this person? At times the answer is yes. At times the answer is no. You just let it be and time will sort it out. Because at times people are going through stuff that you do not know, and you do not need to become a part of what they are going through. So that is number 3. Number 4 is, if you choose now to have the tough conversation, because some tough conversations have to be had. If you decide that I am going to have this tough conversation with this person, then as you're prepping for this, separate the issue, the situation, the problem from the person. Find a way of understanding what is the actual issue here, and define it and separate it from the person, so that when you're having the conversation later on, it is not like it is an attack on the person. You're not talking about you're always late coming, or every time you do this, or you're the one who's always making noise. It is not a personalized attack. You are discussing the issue. The issue is that the report X was late. What is that? What caused that? What is going on? Can you share what is going on? Or the issue is there seems to be a lot of noise coming from that area. What could be the issue? What is going on? Can you let me know a little bit more about what you feel about this? Separate the issue from the person, so that when you're having the conversation, you are not attacking the person. You're dealing with an issue, you're dealing with a problem, you're dealing with something that was raised. Number 5 is practice empathy. This is something that you really need to train yourself to do, especially when you are leading people. When you're being a high achiever and you're dealing with numbers, and you're dealing with servers, and you're dealing with figures, you're dealing with documents, you don't really have to have empathy for the server or for the document or for the numbers. You just need to know them. It's like the server, this is what the server needs. The numbers, this is what I need to do. It's like they are not human. But when you're dealing with humans, there is a lot that goes on that causes people to behave the way they behave, to react the way that they react. So practice empathy. And in this case, when I say empathy, I mean practice walking a mile in the person's shoes. Practice seeing things through their eyes. This is the problem. This is something that happened. Sit in their chair and understand what could have caused this person to either react this way, to behave this way, what could have caused the report to be late from their perspective. Practice understanding that. And this is not so that you can let them off the hook, because when most people hear empathy, they think it's about letting people off the hook. No. This is about you coming up with real solutions. The real solutions to the issue at hand, the real solutions to the problem, the real solutions to the topic or the subject of the tough conversations. For example, I had a person who I was working with, who was a member of my team, who kept delivering incomplete work. Their work was to follow up stuff, and the work that they kept delivering was incomplete. Now, the issue was that the work was incomplete, and we could have sat down and discussed what is going on, what is causing this work to be incomplete. However, when I sat in the person's shoes, when I walked in the person's shoes, when I looked at this through their eyes, I realized that what was actually going on was fear, because they are supposed to report, they're supposed to get feedback from very many people in order to complete their work. But because they had fear, when they were tossed here and there, they did not speak up. They did not stand up. They did not push back. They just let people kind of push them around. So when we were solving this issue, the issue wasn't so much that the reports or the work was being delivered incomplete. The issue was fear. So the real solution here was to find a way for this person to deal with their fear. The real issue wasn't so much the report or the incomplete work, it was the fear. So empathy is something that's very, very important for you as a leader, to learn to practice, to learn to see things through the eyes of the people who you lead, so that you can come up with real solutions to the issues that come up. So, do you have any issues with tough conversations? Is there anything that you've learned from this? Is there anything that you would like to add to this? Do share and do let me know. Comment. Let me know what you think.